Hi, I'm Samantha Mask, and this is my personal reflection video on our first discussion post for our class this year, or this term, excuse me, fall 2 of 2023 for UWA. So for our first discussion post, we had to discuss perceptions of individuals who have articulation or phonological disorders throughout the lifespan and how the perceptions change, such as from preschool to upper grades, and why do these perceptions change and how might it affect the individual. So first of all, if you're not familiar with articulation and phonological disorders, these are speech or language disorders that are really focused on the pronunciation of certain sounds and the words associated with those sounds. So like, for example, a personal reflection that I have, my nephew, Garrett, when he was younger, he had an issue pronouncing his L's. And so my mother-in-law, whose name is Lisa, her grandmother name was going to be Lily. Since my nephew Garrett could not pronounce his L's, he would say yee, Y-E-Y-E, instead. And as time progressed, my mother-in-law just, sentimentally thought it was cute. He was a, little kid, little preschooler, toddler, saying that she fell in love with the name and she actually adopted the name and is still yee to this day. However, thankfully, Garrett was able to overcome this error that he had with his L pronunciation, and he can now say his L's very clearly, even though my mother-in-law kept the name. But again, before he even entered his formal school years, he was able to overcome that. So he was not diagnosed with a disorder, and he was able to, address the issue on his own over time. However, not all children are able to do that. So in children that actually are identified with articulation and phonological disorders, they would carry on such improper pronunciation as they progressed, even into their upper grades. And this can be a very big problem for school children because, as I said, like with my mother-in-law, it's really adorable when you have little kids and they're using the baby talk, and it's cute. But as you progress with your development, you're expected to move past those typical childlike characteristics into more mature characteristics. And so children who have articulation and phonological disorders don't always do that. So they carry on those improper pronunciations even into upper ages and upper stages of development. And so that's often seen as a sign of weakness, and other children can often be harsh towards children who have these disabilities. SLD, or speech and language disabilities, is the big range of identification for things such as articulation and phonological disorders. So children with SLD, they can often be the victim of bullying. They're misconstrued as having lower IQs, often because of those errors, when that's not the case. They just struggle with those pronunciations. It could be something to do with the way they're practicing the curvature of their tongue as they speak, just different things that they're not picking up on that other children naturally do. And this can lead to other problems as well. So in my article, I did not really refer to learning disabilities that can be developed because of SLD. However, that can be the case. So if the children are struggling with these pronunciations and the different sounds that these letters make, it can affect their reading and their learning over time. But the biggest thing that I focused on with my discussion was more social and emotional issues that can develop because of the stressors that they face from their peers, because of these signs of weakness, so to speak, that their peers pick up on. So as they progress, if children aren't able to overcome these articulation and phonological disorders, the other children can really give them a lot of pressure, a lot of negativity that can affect them socially. They can start to develop antisocial behaviors. They can start to have bad anxiety. And then later in life, if that progresses to be very intense throughout their childhood, even into adulthood, they could have some very negative effects, like very poor social relationships, which can affect, poor job opportunities. Criminal behavior is another likely one. And very often, people with SLD with these sort of social and emotional disorders can end up in lower socioeconomic statuses, labels, and being in the poorer class because of the different difficulties they often face. And so it's very important, especially in education, to identify at a very young age, students who struggle with SLD, such as articulation and phonological disorders. That way they can receive the speech services through special education that can help them overcome these issues. Because unlike my nephew Garrett, not all children can overcome these issues on their own or through the help of adults in their own home. Sometimes they need professionals to be able to help them, and the only way that they can receive those services for free through education programs is if they are properly identified under the special education window or umbrella. Thank you.